She said I was boring. My gaze fell on my drink. The expression crying into my beer came to mind, yet no tears were shed by me. I found no reason for sorrow. Certainly I felt miserable, undeniable, but it wasn't as if there was something to mourn over. A guy doesn't need to lament a woman's departure. Why cry when she's replaceable? Daily, I hear women lament the lack of good men. It's humorous how often I'm told the good ones are all taken or gay. Meanwhile, my male pals lament the rarity of women who are true to their word. Quite a few men have been deeply wounded by divorces. Clearly, something's off. I think people simply don't recognize the value of what they possess. It's a marvel to share years with someone, knowing every slight liking and peculiar habit of the one you cherish. No, I didn't regret her wanting someone or something different. What I regretted was her calling me bland. I suspect she labeled me bland just to justify leaving. That's dishonest. She hasn't really left me, she just told me she'd start seeing someone else because I was bland. In my younger days, I was all for adventures. I'd kayak with friends around coastal islands and through swift mountain rivers. I once opted for a long paddle to Long Island, 12 miles distant, over shorter island excursions. All I got was warnings about the danger, yet I completed it multiple times without trouble. I relished overnight camping at a state park beach, followed by a paddle back the next day. Such endeavors didn't seem sensible to Karen as a husband and father. My family counted on me, and I was advised against taking unnecessary risks. The times of wilderness skiing, riding my motorcycle, enjoying my cherished Triumph Spitfire, scuba diving, mountain biking, and climbing were over. Thus, as the committed father I became, I took to skiing on carefully prepared slopes, ensuring they weren't too steep. My dirt bike and Triumph were put away, my tough mountain bike exchanged for a street cycle, and I signed up at a gym with a climbing wall. I drove a minivan indeed, one with imitation wood siding. Yes, I know, but my affection for her was deep, so let the critics be. After she tempered my recreational pursuits, her next target was my career. She objected to my business travels. Though most trips were brief, lasting a day or two for deal-making, some required me to fly to London, Hong Kong, or elsewhere. I was adept at closing deals that led to major acquisitions or lucrative sales for my firm. She despised the international trips for their potential to stretch over weeks, despite them always bringing in significant bonuses, enhancing our finances. Yet she abhorred my being away. Becoming a partner significantly reduced my need for overnight trips. I could manage most domestic dealings within a day, sealing the deal and flying back on a red-eye. However, minimizing international travel took years. It was a dilemma: travel widely, earn generously, rise to senior partner, then delegate and guide teams for deal-making in your stead. Avoid traveling, let others go and gain the benefits, and see them climb past you in the corporate structure. I wasn't going to let anyone outdo me for any reason. I navigated it wisely, arranging travel to accomplish multiple objectives in one go towards partnership. I led the way in using teleconferencing for initial talks in my firm. I ensured my teams flew on private jets to maximize our efficiency at destinations. It cut into my bonuses but paid off eventually. I climbed the ranks, Karen was happier, and we were all safe. Yet darn, I felt unexcited. I gave up everything to match her tastes, only to be considered unexciting. So be it, I resolved. Let her chase the excitement she seeks. In the meantime, I plan to reclaim my authentic self. I fondly remember the past, the version of myself who enjoyed personal adventures, the one who defied the laws of physics, launching from a wet hill on a motocross weekend. The one who boarded a helicopter to explore pristine snow atop a secluded mountain peak, which took a full day to descend. The same me who, come summer, revisited that peak to scale it once more. She anticipated my waiting at home for her, emphasizing the significance of safety. My role was to be on standby, ready to lend her assistance should she face any challenges on her date. Indeed, after 2.5 decades of matrimony, preceded by 4 years of companionship and courtship during our school days, all along I had considered her to be of keen intellect. It appears I was mistaken. This setup was never one I consented to. My plans never included staying home, be it to be available for emergencies or to greet her upon her return. Such monotony was out of the question. Every pact was voided, every pledge, such as forsaking all others and promises to love, respect, cherish, and follow, was forsaken. She overlooked the last one, and now I grasp the reason. Monotony wouldn't have been an issue if adherence had been a part of our compact. Hence, upon returning from work, I swapped my work attire for jeans and a relaxed shirt as she showered, and sought my old boots as she finished up. She had a fondness for me in boots, regardless of the activity, be it riding, trekking, cowboy style, or formal, it was all the same. Yet this preference vanished when I transitioned into the safe, or rather mundane version of myself. Still, I was aware I remained appealing in those boots. They fit as perfectly as ever, and so did everything else. Despite the weight gain over those 25 years, it was all in upper body strength, bolstering my confidence that the boots looked even more impressive now, given my enhanced width and muscle. With a splash of aftershave, a cheap blazer, there was no doubt I wasn't staying up for her, and she was displeased. "What's your plan for tonight? You're certainly not dressed for an evening in Who Said Lackluster couldn't also be fashionable." I was out the door before she could reply, setting off to enjoy my weekend. The minivan ignited effortlessly, its 4-cylinder engine awakening. True, it didn't bellow more precisely, it buzzed to life. To be honest, the minivan coughed and clattered into motion. Yet it managed to exit the driveway and make its way towards town before Karen could get dressed and follow me outside. I couldn't suppress a grin as I watched her emerge in her robe. Before long, my mobile rang, which I let redirect to voicemail. I had prepared a new greeting for such occasions. "Greetings, this is Dale. I'm unavailable tonight as I'm either navigating the roads or embracing monotony. If it's thrill-seeking you're after, dial my wife Karen at 555-4269. She would be thrilled to chat about me. Otherwise, leave a message, and I'll respond when possible, though it might not be until Monday." Farewell at the top of my list was to rid myself of this dreadful van. I yearned for a vehicle that was both robust and refined. I would have been satisfied with a model featuring genuine wood trim, like a classic Willys wagon, especially one that could carry a surfboard. Now, liberated from my previous soul-dimming mundane existence, it was exhilarating to vocalize these sentiments. Thus, settling for anything less than my newfound standards for sophistication and durability wasn't an option for the revitalized me. The old, uninspired version of myself would have concealed the checkbook from our shared savings account and returned home. That was out of the question now. My search concluded with the acquisition of 2 vehicles, one rugged, the other refined. The Mercedes showroom eagerly met my needs with a refined convertible, the epitome of sophistication. Nothing spells sophistication like a man in a Mercedes convertible offering compliments in French. True, I missed the accents, but it didn't bother me. The need to avoid being mundane was paramount, and looking them up would have been precisely mundane. The dealer also showcased a formidable Jeep in his used inventory, equipped with bold lift kits, hefty, durable tires, vivid fog lights, and an impressively loud train horn, among a host of other aftermarket features. I embarked in the Jeep while the convertible was on its way to my house, to be securely parked in the driveway that Sunday morning. "Uninteresting," she said of me. I was anything but boring. The character she had constructed was the one that was mundane and outdated, left behind as I sought the excitement that had first called to me. I acquired a trailer and returned, not to the dwelling I shared with my partner, but to my mother's place. It had been several months since I last saw my mother. A visit was long overdue. The trip, lasting 3 hours, was enjoyable as I rediscovered the pleasure of driving a car with genuine power. Upon arrival, my mother was overjoyed and had made my favorite lasagna. She didn't ask about the purpose of my visit or why Karen wasn't with me, but I could tell she knew something was amiss. She always had that intuition. The next morning, I went to the shed to get my old Spitfire, which had been sitting there for years. My brother took it out now and then to keep it functional. I didn't have the same fortune with the dirt bike. though getting it on the trailer didn't require it to be started. By midday, I had loaded both the bike and the car onto the trailer, bringing a smile to my mother's face. "So, are you going to tell me?" "What's going on?" I smiled in return. "What about Mom? 25 years spent living by Karen's rules, raising 3 kids, while my own interests were buried under family vans and easy paths. And now, here I am, without my spouse, reclaiming my sports car and motorbike, donning these fashionable boots my mother, as expected, got it immediately. I shared with her the recent issues Karen was facing with her mental health. That lady might be losing her grip, but be thankful, dear. She has set you free, my mother pointed out, always spot on. That night, I turned my phone back on. Karen and the kids had been trying to reach me all day. I gathered the children in a group text and wrote, "I'm okay, I'm at Grandma's. Your mum and I are in a disagreement, and I needed some space to reflect, so I decided to visit your grandma. Your mum is." Anxious, saying I disappeared without a word. "I won't lie to you, nor will I detail the reasons. It's not my place to share that. I'll only say your mother found me uninteresting, so I'm making changes." It's up to her to give her perspective. Jenny, my daughter, voiced her worries. "This isn't like Mum. She's thoughtful and wouldn't risk our family's safety or unity. You should come back and sort things out." I valued her faith in me. "Thanks, love, for believing in me." Before you form a harsh opinion, I encourage you to hear the full story from your mum. Daniel, my son, offered his support. "Dad, we're not blaming anyone. We love you both and hope for the best. I express my gratitude." "Thanks, son. Check with your mum, then get back to me." I spent the evening watching a cheesy movie with my mother, prepared to go to bed when I received a text notification. Jenny was apologetic. "Sorry, Dad. It's hard to believe Mum went out with someone else." "I get it, honey," I responded. Jenny was curious about what I planned next. "What are you going to do?" "I'll keep living as I have always done. I'm no longer going to be troubled by what your mum thinks I should be. If it really mattered, she would have stayed true to our marriage promises. It appears I'm now free to live as I wish." Daniel sent a message. "Got it, Dad. Give Grandma my love." Looking forward to a ride in the Spitfire next weekend. I chuckled. "Ha ha ha, definitely. You and Grandma get me. And yes, we're planning a spring break ski trip with a helicopter drop, not a T-bar lift." My kids knew of my previous exploits and real interests. They've seen the pictures of me skiing and caked in mud from biking. "Sure, get ready. The backcountry routes are exciting but challenging." That Sunday, my mother and I made our way to our favorite bagel store. I lingered to support her with a range of chores at her residence. During our lunch break, my mobile was unable to dispatch messages, and I chuckled over a raging text from Karen regarding my Mercedes arrival. The delivery crew had inadvertently trapped the keys inside. As the holder of the backup keys, all Karen could do was stare at it, obstructing her path to her vehicle in the garage. Consequently, I chose to reward the delivery personnel generously for their mishap. After noticing Karen's vehicle at home, I maneuvered my Jeep backward into the driveway, stationed it, and then entered my fresh Mercedes, driving off with a chuckle as Karen dashed out, trying to catch my attention for a halt. Now she had the chance to appreciate my new Jeep and the trailer hauling her competitors, my Spitfire and Kawasaki. It was an amusing notion her garage space was finally clear, enabling her departure. Maybe she would think about relocating, judging everything as overly straightforward and monotonous, as she had suggested. Instead of returning, I made my way to a mall to buy clothing for several days before settling into the Hyatt near my office, opting for the penthouse. My accumulated bonuses were put to good use. That night, I had a peaceful sleep. The next day, proceeded as usual to work and briefed my team on my imminent Hong Kong business trip, concerning a critical negotiation over prime industrial property that had hit an impasse. It was an opportune time for my intervention and leadership impact. My team was buoyed they had lined up 3 other potential investments for scrutiny while there. Why delay? I motivated them as they shared their preliminary findings on these sites. Proceed to evaluate, yet remain poised for acquisitions. Notify our legal counterparts there we are coming prepared for aggressive action, anticipating extensive legal formalities. Prepare for an extended stay, up to a month or more if need be, or plan rotations with Ian's team members. Your families are welcome to visit at least once during the tenure. I aim to prevent this project from straining any relationships. To that end, I'll bear the cost of their stay, travel, and daily expenditures. I plan to take some leisure time for sightseeing. Anticipate a prolonged visit, possibly extending over a month. My itinerary includes visits to Sydney and a hotel chain in Buenos Aires before heading back. While stationed in Hong Kong, I'll dispatch someone to Seoul and Mumbai, seizing a prime chance to make a substantial profit. Good to see you, greeted Carter Douglas, my potential heir and adept negotiator, with a welcoming grin. I reciprocated the smile and pulled Kim, our finance expert, aside for a confidential discussion. In my office, I requested my secretary to filter all incoming calls, particularly those from my spouse, then closed the door with Kim inside. This is your golden chance, Kim. We need to act swiftly and flawlessly. Upon our return, most acquisitions will be quickly sold, demanding each deal to be executed smoothly and promptly. While some acquisitions might appear less enticing, they'll be attractive to sellers holding assets we covet, enabling us to trade less appealing assets for more prized ones. We're also eyeing new market expansions for our products. These endeavors might not yield immediate profits but are anticipated to bring significant future rewards, drawing our partners' focus. This could be your leap from a junior associate to a more lucrative role. So, I need you ready at any moment to support any claim or assertion I make. And no, I replied with a grin to her quip. About climbing the ladder through personal favors, advancement demands effort, just as it does for everyone. While the allure is undeniable, professional boundaries must be maintained. Nonetheless, you will be deeply involved in our business activities during this trip. Be prepared to collect me in a limo on Friday morning and ensure you're dressed to impress. I wanted my wife to suspect infidelity on my part when you arrive at my doorstep to pick me up. When arranging for the limousine, request Jan as the chauffeur and instruct her to wear the outfit featuring the short shorts. I aimed for my wife to be overwhelmed with jealousy upon my departure. My team was motivated, my wife was visibly distressed upon seeing me, my children were deeply disappointed in her. Kim's desire was not directed at me personally, but towards career advancement, though possibly for me too. Yet I had established a definite line. I headed for the airport to hire a plane, entertaining the thought of maybe skydiving from it. It's ridiculous. I wasn't considering any life-threatening action. If I were to rediscover the thrill-seeker in my younger years, I needed to stand up and experience an adrenaline surge. It was incredible. I rented cameras for myself and my skydiving partner to document the adventure. I posted it on Facebook and enjoyed a splendid night's sleep. The next morning, my phone overflowed with unanswered calls and texts from the kids. Karen was enraged, but the kids were overjoyed. It appeared that the real me had made a comeback. Dull, she had called it. I had absolutely no interest in facing Karen, so I sneakily made my way back home. While she was occupied at work and collected my stuff, I then made my way to the airport and caught a night flight to Chicago. There was no pressing reason for the trip, but I had a few promising prospects that could prove advantageous. The trip ended up being profitable and allowed me to stay away from Karen until our significant journey. I got back home late on Thursday night to a dark house. She didn't get back until 2 a.m. and didn't even realize I was there. Luckily, she came back alone. I would have had to confront her about bringing her young lovers into our house, but this way, I managed to avoid her until I was ready. And ready I was. I got up early, with my packed bags ready and waiting by the door. I made myself a substantial breakfast of steak and eggs and listened to ZZ Top in the kitchen. I was wearing a pair of gabardine slacks that fit perfectly and a fashionable new sport shirt Ken had never seen before. Opting for stylish comfort seemed just right for the 18-hour trip to Asia, and I wore it exceptionally well. Karen came downstairs, drawn by the smell of my coffee. I make superb coffee, hers was awful. "Oh my God, Dale, you're back. Darling, why didn't you answer my calls?" I've been so worried. Yes, the kids said you were worried. No worries, I'm fine. I'm just living the way I want. Oh no, you don't, mister. I expect a better explanation than that it's the perfect explanation. Last week you said you were going to do what you wanted, and I couldn't stop you. So I figured if my dear wife wants to live as she likes, I should too. If this is the new normal, I can handle it. I never said you could do whatever you wanted. I said I was going to see other people, right? I get it. But that's not what I wanted. So if you can make such a big decision without considering my feelings, there's no reason for me to consult you about mine. You absolutely must. You have a family to care for. A husband and father shouldn't be off on a motorcycle or racing in little sports cars. I thought we settled this years ago. We did, but times have changed and so have we. Kay, I gave up all those activities for you and the kids. I drove a minivan, for crying out loud. I skied on the beginner slopes with the family. I haven't jumped out of a plane in years. Until this week you called me boring because I seemed uninterested. Now that the kids are grown, they have enough saved for college. And here's a big secret: neither you nor they know they each have a trust fund set to mature when they graduate college. They'll have enough for grad school and a down payment on a nice house wherever they want to live. Understand that the kids will be fine no matter what happens between us. So if my parachute doesn't open and I die doing something spectacular, I'll die with a smile on my face. And they'll be fine, as will you. Know that I care about your future too. You have a husband, Karen. I hate to break it to you, but actually I don't. What's next? Just wait, Dale. That's quite the leap. We're just starting to talk about this and you're already sure. I'm not assuming anything. I'm certain that I'm no longer important to you. If I were, you wouldn't have given me that ultimatum. You think I'm boring? I get it. It's easy to leave something you find dull. I've had my share of fun too. I've sacrificed a lot under the pretense of being a family man, but clearly being a family man isn't exciting enough to keep a wife from looking for excitement elsewhere. The doorbell rang just when I needed a break from this ridiculous argument. Jai came in with Kim right behind. They carried 4 incredibly stylish legs. Did I mention how I looked in gabardine? I appeared even more distinguished with a 10 in my pocket. Jen greeted me warmly with a hug and a peck on the cheek before she took charge of my 4 pieces of luggage, escorting them to the limousine. Kim handed over a document to me and started outlining the present situation of our discussions, enumerating the projects and locations involved, thoroughly engaging Karen's interest. How long do you plan to be gone? She questioned. Several months was my response, a period sufficient for you to discover new things before it becomes too late. Nevertheless, please ensure they don't get access to our house. Karen began a fervent plea that could easily match the intensity of a telethon. She presented numerous arguments for me to reconsider leaving, emphasizing the importance of discussing our relationship's progress and its future trajectory. Interrupting her, I said, "Sweetheart, you're not speaking in the correct tense. Our relationship isn't moving forward, it's over, and I'm about to leave. I'll see you in a few weeks." Her protestations were ignored as we made our way to the vehicle, yet I managed to give her a grin when she noticed my Jeep, my Spitfire, and my convertible neatly parked by the garage, effectively concealing her vehicle. Her comment was too vulgar for me to even consider repeating here. The experience in Hong Kong was extraordinary. Kim occupied the suite adjacent to mine, always available but strictly for work-related matters, a point on which we both agreed. She concentrated on the financial aspects, and together we successfully wrapped up all expected agreements and organized for the follow-up groups to finalize them in a month. Our achievements spread to Australia, where we provisionally decided on acquiring a hotel chain, calling for a finalizing visit from a closing team in a month. We discovered more investment opportunities and moved to Argentina, where I engaged in talks with an eager seller, and our team spotlighted additional ventures for our company's review. Throughout this period, I adhered strictly to my marital vows, holding on to the hope of a reconciliation with Karen. Admittedly, Karen's behavior was a bit over the top, yet my affection for her remained undiminished despite her quirks. Not ready to call it quits, I chose to interpret her demands as the declaration of an open marriage. In this setup, we stay legally married but are free to form connections with others, avoiding complications. Carrie Moore, a college acquaintance who became a personal shopper for wealthy tourists in Hong Kong, showed my team the city's famous markets for a day. She introduced me to a trusted tailor, and by the time we had spent 12 days in the city, I was ready to leave for Sydney with several tailor-made suits, having fully enjoyed Carrie's company. That was exactly what I needed: a dependable woman, a luxurious suite in an exotic city, and unbridled passion. I felt guilty for about 10 minutes. The time it took to remember Karen was the one who had set these rules I was now following. She had called it monotonous. I realized I had never been monotonous, though I had felt boredom. Carrie was anything but boring, and judging from her reactions, it was evident she found nothing dull about our time together. Moving from Hong Kong to Sydney, we hired a local guide named Sydney. I delighted in the sheer pleasure of discovering the city's wonders by day and enjoying the company of the slim, dark-haired beauty by night. It's not repetitive to say I enjoyed both the city of Sydney and being with Sydney. Rio presented another profitable business environment. Though not as successful as our Asian or Australian ventures, we justified an additional month abroad. In terms of personal encounters, I met a vibrant Latin divorcee who introduced me to the tango both on the dance floor and more intimately. As our business concluded, I sent my team home on individual first-class commercial flights. I followed a few days later on a rented jet, where the flight attendant initiated me into the Mile High Club and introduced me to the concept of a threesome. It was an unforgettable journey, yet I wasn't ready to end it there. Dull, isn't it? But now you get the picture. Before heading back, I indulged in skiing in Canada with my sun-drenched self from Rio. I reunited with my kids before Christmas. Why not? They had finished their exams a week before their mother expected them back for the holiday season. The skiing adventure was exhilarating, with sharp descents on slopes covered in snow that we reached by helicopter. My evenings were spent partying early with my offspring and deeply connecting with a voluptuous blonde housewife who, on our first night at the bar, divulged her painful tale of being supplanted by a younger woman by her spouse and feeling adrift. I offered her employment with a substantial allowance for accommodation and took care of her moving expenses to become my new personal assistant. This happened after our third night together. She loudly announced her peaks in different languages every night, and her revealing her sixth language on the third night convinced me of her priceless language skills for our growing global business. Naturally, employing her marked the end of our personal relations. My professional integrity was maintained, despite my estranged wife's deeds that jeopardized our marriage. Moreover, the weekend was wrapping up. We got back a few days before Christmas. The children went to see their mom, and I checked into a hotel close to my work, choosing not to confront Karen and the jet lag at the same time. I managed to secure a condo as a Christmas present for myself and opted to celebrate Christmas with my wife and kids. My cars remained parked outside the garage, next to a small Cooper convertible in front of my Spitfire. I was sure Karen would react badly, yet she did not. She greeted me as though none of it had happened. Perhaps I had ceased to be mundane to her. I joined in the Christmas festivities, savored her feast, helped with washing up, and dutifully took out the trash to the garage. I repositioned the Mercedes and the Spitfire, then left in my Jeep. The phone call came through. I had wished for a Christmas truce between us, and indeed we reached it. I stayed for a few more days for the kids, sleeping in the spare room. The day after Christmas, I took the cars for a cleaning, realizing that exposing them to the elements for 4 months might not have been the best decision for the vehicles, even if it served as a daily reminder to Karen that the situation had changed. I planned to keep both the Jeep and the Mercedes at the condo. The day after Christmas, Karen began arguing again. Her boyfriend dropped by for lunch, and she gave a smug look. I went upstairs, grabbed my bag, and returned downstairs to an escalating argument. The kids were displeased with Karen, and she was surprised by their reaction. She might have expected a different outcome. It could have been different had it not been Christmas. I paused to bid them goodbye, and they did the same. They said their goodbyes to Karen. We loaded their luggage into the Jeep and set off for the city. The city had plenty on offer for New Year's, and we were geared up to make the most of it. We explored museums by day and hit clubs by night. Both. Kids had friends nearby, offering all three of us opportunities to be together or venture on our own. I also found some personal time, which wasn't spent in solitude. By the time I got back to work, I had soaked in enough music, toured enough museums, indulged in enough exquisite cuisine, and enjoyed enough fine wine and whiskey to last a lifetime. I slipped into a routine far from mundane. My campaign in the Southern Hemisphere that fall had not only boosted my standing within the company but had also attracted the attention of our competitors. Other companies, admiring our recent display of might, sought me out. I made no secret of this to my team, even suggesting I'd take them along if I left. Unsurprisingly, this news reached the higher-ups. I was called into the boss's office. Karen's grandfather was the company's founder, and her father had expanded it into a conglomerate with diverse manufacturing ventures. I joined the company upon marrying Karen, starting as a junior analyst, a role that matched my academic background. I was treated like any other employee, even signing a prenup to ensure I had no claim over Karen's future inheritance of the company, which her father still almost entirely owned. Mr. Adams and I got along, although we were never close. He maintained a professional distance from his employees, including me, his son-in-law. At first this seemed strange, but I eventually saw its worth in preventing favoritism as I advanced up the company ranks. Hence, I refrained from joining Kim in personal outings or even golfing with colleagues. Business is business, after all. So, when Adams got directly to the point, it wasn't a shock. Business is business. Recently, my circumstances had undergone significant transformations. I had shone in my professional role, yet encountered challenges with his offspring. He pondered over his need to worry about my situation. As I reclined in the chair position before his desk, I grasped the psychological upper hand provided by his elevated seating. Nevertheless, they seemed to overlook those movie moments when the underdog delivers an unexpected blow from below. Indeed, you ought to be, was my response. Despite contributing to this company for a quarter of a century and outperforming every manager in new business acquisition over the last 5 years, my position as a junior partner persisted. My endeavors in Asia stood unparalleled, and my remuneration, which eclipsed even those of division heads, attested to that. Yet my status remained unchanged, prompting thoughts of embracing the customary exit package and seeking new horizons. Dale, promotion procedures for you differ. Being my son-in-law complicates matters. What would people think? While I comprehended his stance, I believed in recognizing professional merit. Offers from Woodford Unlimited or Mark Manufacturing awaited me, where I could become a partner instantly. As his son-in-law, I anticipated some degree of fidelity. It seems strictly business applies only when it constrains me, yet when it suits your needs, fidelity becomes paramount. I also challenged if this notion of family loyalty was a lesson he failed to impart to his daughter. I apologized, Dale, he conceded. The matter of formalities was another sticking point. Why do I warrant Mr. Adams when you address me as Dale? In professional dealings, I merited equal respect. All right, Mr. Carter, or rather Dr. Carter. Recall, I obtained my economics PhD last spring. Accepted, Dr. Carter. I am conscious of my offspring's misconduct and am discontented. Our discussions have been stern, to the extent that she now shuns me. My philosophy, you infer correctly, is flawed. Your critique of my loyalty perspective and managerial style suggests a disconnect from societal norms. Your description of my leadership as uninspiring and detached hardly surprises. Is it rational to devalue your principal asset simply because he's married to your daughter? The logical course seems to be leveraging my skills elsewhere. To encapsulate, the arrogant figure encouraged me to take my worst action. Consequently, by day's end, my entire team, along with Ian and his group, had handed in their notices. His quick backtrack was unprecedented. A promotion to senior partner for me, accompanied by salary hikes for our teams, and the creation of an exclusive mergers and acquisitions department ensued. With my career and finances now secure, I redirected my focus to personal pursuits. I rode across rugged landscapes and dirt tracks, engaging in motocross competitions. My mountain biking adventures took me down slopes, embracing the muck. Looking my best, caked in mud and weary, I caught the attention of a few female motorcyclists who found the look appealing. Among them, a Harley aficionado praised my motocross finesse and suggested I reach out once I upgraded from my dirt bike. I hinted at the inadequacy of 2 wheels to handle what I offer as I loaded my bike onto my sturdy Jeep's trailer. Her Harley parked next to my Kawasaki. Our evening unfolded into a debate over maneuverability against brute force in motorcycles, drawing parallels to our fervent, clammy encounters. I extensively explored skiing beyond the confines of Tuckerman's Ravine. As the summer heat rendered the famous slope on Mount Washington inaccessible, I ventured to explore the exciting slopes and glaciers of the Pyrenees. Observing semi-nude women basking in the sun at a lodge situated at high altitude beside a snow-laden slope was quite entertaining. It became even more delightful observing them undress further in my hotel room thereafter. I accomplished enough tandem skydives from an operational aircraft to be eligible for solo dives, which I pursued. The same instructor provided me with sufficient glider flying hours to undertake solo flights, which I successfully did. She was excited to see a student achieve both solo milestones in a single month, enabling us to pair up. We engaged in nude skydiving and spent time on an isolated beach where we landed. The challenge of being intimate in the glider, due to the seat arrangement and space constraints, led us back to the beach for another rendezvous. Given the exhilaration of the first time, why not experience it again? I shared the entirety on Facebook, resulting in my page becoming alive with comments and engagement from friends and relatives, particularly the children who had ceased communication with their mother, as had I. She tried to confront me, but confronting a moving target is difficult. Following each post, my phone was inundated with calls. I didn't block her number, I simply chose not to answer. She attempted to confront me at my workplace, even involving her father to summon me for a discussion. He refrained from trying again after I hinted at relocating to Woodfords if he persisted with such measures. He physically had to restrain her to allow me to depart without further annoyance. Then the concerted effort started. Relatives, including aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, pets, and the delivery person, all seemed to rally behind giving her another chance. Given that everyone is prone to erring, I empathized by placing myself in their shoes. I instructed the women to undress and lie down immediately, then to part their legs and ready themselves for my profound impression. Assuming such errors were made so easily, treated so lightly, and forgiven so readily, I deemed myself entitled to a few mistakes of my own, starting with someone well-versed in the process. I requested the men to offer their wives, girlfriends, mothers, or adult daughters for the same purpose. They were surprised, yet understood my point of view. I'm sure some would never speak to me again, which isn't necessarily a loss. However, the incessant uninvited advice was becoming tiresome and began to affect my mood, prompting my departure. I took my team back on the road. They were thrilled, having loved our initial shopping expedition in Asia and Argentina. This time we set our sights on Brazil and Argentina before making our way back to Hong Kong. We excelled to such an extent that we leased premises and launched the company's inaugural international office in Asia. Karen's beloved father expressed no objections, as we had amassed ample business there to justify a permanent establishment, and who do you think got named as Vice President of Operations in the Southern Hemisphere? Me. I placed Ian in Argentina and Kim in Australia, leading to our division's business flourishing. I never made it back home. Karen wanted to join me, but the children convinced her to stay. I wasn't keen on her coming, and she eventually accepted it. I gave the Spitfire and the motorcycle back to my mother. I passed the Jeep onto my son and the Mercedes to my daughter. I offered Karen a separation and gave Carrie an engagement ring. Certainly, I wasn't prepared to spend the best years of my life alone. I longed for a competent partner by my side. She's also a fan of skydiving, so I gained everything adventure. A happy home, a new start, my self-respect, and a considerable sum of money. The possibilities in this new part of the world. If only Karen had come to me, expressing her unhappiness and desire for something exciting and new in our lives, I would have been thrilled. I was feeling the monotony too. We could have skied, delighting in teaching her and sharing in adventures. We might have explored, cautiously navigated rivers, or traveled through Cambodia with little danger and lots of thrills. I was up for anything until she preferred someone else over me, which I couldn't stand. I've been informed that she's very unhappy with the dating scene, deeming the available men not up to par. She resents that her father respects me for moving away from her because we're making significant profits for his company. She regrets her decisions but realizes she can't undo them. Carrie makes sure of that. Every time she hops on a helicopter with ski boots or fastens a parachute, but for me the greatest thrill is going to bed with her every night. Carrie doesn't refuse anything in bed, and she's enjoyed everything I've introduced. I know because she asks for it again after we've tried it. This kind of excitement was missing with Karen, even back in the days when things were good. But since the day her father had to restrain her to let me leave, feeling aggrieved, we've stopped communicating. I imagine she wants to talk, but she knows I'm not interested in talking to her. Likely, a day will come when one of our kids gets married or has a child, an occasion I'd be eager to celebrate. Karen will surely be there, and I will have to interact with her, but I'm not worried. When that time comes, my Carrie will be at my side, not as a shield, but to make sure I stay involved and amused. Dear audience, I welcome you to share your thoughts in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.